Hi. Welcome to Luna Listens to Books channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. On the day of my wedding to Jonathan Bart, his lifesaver made a phone call that left me alone at our wedding venue. He disappeared for a month, and upon his return, he looked as though he had lost a spouse, his eyes filled with heartbreak. Holding the hand of a 5-year-old girl, he announced, "Wendy has died, and from now on her child will be our child." I disagreed and caused a scene only to be criticized by everyone. Taking in the child of the person who saved his life earned Jonathan praise for his loyalty and breadth of character. I was accused of being petty and unable to accept the child of a heroic savior. They pressured me to accept this child. They also forbade me from having my own children. Jonathan explained that Wendy could have survived, but childbirth had depleted her health. He did not want me to suffer the same fate. He feared that if anything happened to me, he wouldn't be able to cope, possibly going mad. Even Jonathan's parents agreed with him. I thought Jonathan was doing this out of love, to prevent me from any harm. Later, I discovered that the child was Jonathan's. A month after the wedding, I was still the talk of the town. She didn't even get to climb up the social ladder before falling down. She must regret not marrying into the Bart family. Poor girl, she should have known her place. Exactly, if she hadn't been pestering Jonathan, he wouldn't have married her. In our circle, even the maids have a higher status than her. How shameless she was. She's a gold digger. Jonathan left, and she still has the nerve to stay at the Bart family's house. She completed the wedding ceremony alone. What a laughingstock. Whether at gatherings or right in front of me, these people mocked me without mercy, endured silently because I trusted Jonathan. Many things had happened while he was taking care of his benefactor. Every time I felt unhappy or doubtful, Jonathan would present solid evidence proving that he and Wendy were only friends and that he was only repaying the favor. It reassured me, so I believed him until Jonathan came back. At first glance, I almost didn't recognize him. He lost a lot of weight, his once smooth chin now covered with stubble. He seemed more mature and reliable, but there was an unshakable sadness in his eyes. Jonathan hugged me tightly, his body trembling slightly. "Jocelyn, I missed you." It was as if he wanted to embed me into his body, repeatedly confirming my presence as if afraid I would disappear. When I was holding his emaciated frame, my heart softened. "I missed you too." I hadn't finished speaking when a timid voice interrupted. "Daddy, why are you hugging this lady?" The soft voice made me notice a 5-year-old girl standing beside Jonathan. I thought she was a neighbor's child who had wandered over while we stood at the door. Instinctively, I reached out to pat her head. I was about to joke that she shouldn't call Jonathan daddy just because he was handsome. This had happened before. Kids would mistake him for their fathers due to his gentle demeanor. But before my hand could touch her head, Jonathan pulled her back protectively, as if I were some kind of monster, trying to eat the girl alive. Jonathan didn't even realize his action hurt me, just said with difficulty, his voice hoarse, "Wendy is dead." I was stunned for a moment before replying, "Oh." Seemingly not expecting my calm reaction, Jonathan became agitated. "Jocelyn, how can you be so heartless? Wendy is dead." What else could I say? For the past 3 years, Wendy had been saying almost every day that she was going to die. Jonathan would rush to her side immediately, even if it meant leaving me alone in the suburbs. And it always turned out to be just a small cut on her finger that would heal in no time. Because of her, I suffered a lot. My husband was always at her beck and call. Even our wedding was ruined. Was I supposed to cry for her now? "You should move on. She's gone," I said. To my surprise, Jonathan didn't dwell on it. Normally, he would have a fight with me because of Wendy and blamed me for not being magnanimous. The next moment, I understood why. Jonathan pulled a young girl in front of him like presenting a treasure. The look he gave her was one of tenderness he hadn't shown me in a long time. "This is Letitia, Wendy's daughter." I was extremely shocked. Wasn't Wendy sick? When did she have a child? Wendy's already frail body had weakened rapidly since she saved Jonathan, and there were no other men around her. When did she have a child? and why was she calling Jonathan Dad? Seeing how close they were to each other, it seemed they had been together for a while. My face turned grim, and Jonathan caught my suspicious look. Jonathan's expression darkened instantly. Are you suspecting me? Then why didn't you tell me Wendy had a child? He had hidden a child from me for 5 years, and I didn't know anything about it. This man who used to tell me everything and present any evidence before me didn't reveal this at all. Wendy's child has nothing to do with you. I don't need to tell you everything, do I? Jonathan's words felt like a stab to my heart. The next moment, Jonathan grabbed my hand. Wendy is dead, it's all in the past now, let's not argue over past matters. The person you were concerned about is no longer in this world. Jocelyn, please stop being angry with me, focus on our future, okay? Yes, I had always harbored the despicable thought that once Wendy died, Jonathan and I could live happily ever after. This thought had been supporting me all along. But now that she was truly dead, could things really go as I wished? Could I trust Jonathan? Jocelyn, I've always known you're kind-hearted. Letitia has no relatives left in this world, so I plan to adopt Letitia. Hearing this news was like being struck by lightning. What? I know you're most afraid of pain. If we adopt Letitia, you won't have to go through the pain of delivery. He not only planned to adopt Wendy's child but also forbade me from having my own. Furious, I kicked Jonathan out. Get out, I don't want to see you. I shut the door on both of them. Jonathan banged on the door. Jocelyn, you can hit me or scold me, but the child is innocent. She is the child of my savior. How could I abandon her? You should understand my feelings. Can't you just bear with it for my sake? I can't, unless I'm dead. I will never agree. After Wendy was dead, Wendy's daughter still stood between us. This wasn't a matter of bearing with it. It was a lifetime of endurance. I felt utterly exhausted, as if Wendy had never died and her ghost continued to haunt us. Jonathan disappeared without a trace. Everything seemed calm, as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, there was a frantic pounding on the door. Startling me, through the peephole, I saw Jonathan's mother. Bernice had always looked down on me for being powerless and penniless. She left with Jonathan on our wedding day and had never come to see me until now. Jocelyn, you know I don't like you. The only reason I let you marry Jonathan was because you have one virtue, kindness. Wendy was my son's savior. As Jonathan's wife, you must accept Letitia. Another mention of the savior. I've heard this word and endured it for 5 years. Now I'd reached a breaking point. That's impossible. My eyes were bloodshot. Not Wendy's child. Bernice remained unperturbed. Jocelyn, you have a younger brother, and your father is gone. With your mother's meager earnings, when will she ever save enough to buy a house in the city for your brother? Our family's matters are none of your concern. I will never agree to this. Please leave. Are you saying you don't want a house in the city center? Bernice sat on the sofa, glancing at her nails. Jocelyn, how can you be so rude? How can you talk to your mother-in-law like that? My face stiffened as my mother barged in from outside. I want a house in the city center. My mother squeezed my hand and pleaded, it's just a child, right? The Bart family has plenty of resources. Raising a kid certainly isn't a problem. Besides, it's the child of Jonathan's savior. Are you really that vindictive? Vindictive? Do you know how I've lived these past 5 years? I struggled to hold back my tears. Daphne, my mother, was relentless. Hearing a house in the city made her eyes light up. Do you know how hard it was for me to raise you and your brother alone? Can't you think about us? Don't be so selfish. For your brother's sake, can't you endure a bit longer? My face turned pale as I gritted my teeth and said, you said the same thing on my wedding day. When Bernice left, all those people with status and influence followed her out except those who stayed to watch the drama unfold. How did I feel being forced to complete the ceremony alone? A flash of guilt crossed Daphne's face. Jocelyn, just this once more, help me one last time. I really can't afford your brother's wedding expenses anymore. If you disagree and think that your brother and I are burdens, then we'll just go die. She pretended to jump off the building. She threatened to kill herself, making me feel suffocated. For 5 years, Jonathan had asked me to endure, and now my mother forced me to endure. It was like an endless nightmare. Mom, I said weakly, deflated, I will transfer money into your account every month from now on. Let's not meet again. Won't make any more sacrifices for you. We're done. Daphne Chaplin was first happy, then stunned. She didn't believe that over such a small matter, I would truly sever ties with her. The next day, Jonathan brought Letitia with him. When he opened the door, Jonathan was holding a bouquet of roses and smiling brightly, clean-shaven and dressed impeccably. Jocelyn, I knew you were the kindest, he said, reaching out to kiss my hand. I turned my head to avoid him, looking at Jonathan with disappointment. You know why I agreed. Jonathan looked at me with deep emotion. I'm sorry for bringing Mom into this, but I had no other choice. Believe me, Letitia is very well behaved, you'll really like her. Letitia smiled sweetly, I will be very good and won't cause any trouble. Faced with a child, I couldn't bring myself to say anything harsh. Besides, my mother had already accepted the house. T felt uncomfortable to owe someone a favor. Letitia was indeed well behaved and even smart, knowing how to be likable, but the truth, she was Wendy's child, made it hard for me to like her. When she was inside the house, I stayed outside. When she was outside, I went back in. Jocelyn, you're going to be Letitia's stepmother soon. Can't you be nicer to her? Since you're already here, it means you've accepted this situation. Why the long face? Letitia is sensitive, don't give her that attitude. At that moment, I felt like a clown at the peak of embarrassment, wanting everything but having nothing described me perfectly. Becoming a stepmother and being forced to accept it was something no one could easily handle. Jonathan's eyes flashed with determination. He realized that if there were any gaps as Letitia grew older, his busy work schedule would make it hard to manage me and the child who didn't get along. I'm going away for a month. There are things at the company that need my attention. Letitia will be left in your care, he said, and left without waiting for my response. The atmosphere was thick and tense. Letitia seemed more mature than me and suddenly spoke mysteriously. Do you want to know where Dad and Mom went this past month? This was something I had been ignoring. If I could endure until now, aside from the pressure from others, it was because of Jonathan. No matter how late, he would always come back and never spend the night elsewhere. Not betraying me was my last line of defense. I had deliberately forgotten about his disappearance this past month. At most, he was accompanying Wendy in her final days. But Letitia's words still caught me off guard. Seeds of doubt began to take root and grow. Wendy was beautiful, even in her final moments when she could barely move, she still evoked pity from anyone who saw her. With such a delicate beauty around, could Jonathan really have remained unmoved by her? If there was truly nothing going on, why didn't he contact me? Not even a phone call or a message. When I came back to my senses, I found Letitia playing with my phone. Children shouldn't play with phones, I said as I took it back from her. Being a stepmother wasn't easy. People might say I spoiled the child on purpose or taught her poorly. But then I noticed that Letitia had logged on to a WhatsApp account on my phone. I thought she had randomly tapped it, but it turned out to be Wendy's WhatsApp account. Instinctively, I clicked on it. Wendy and I had only met twice and had no other interactions, so of course, we never friend each other on WhatsApp. Even Jonathan didn't have her WhatsApp number, they kept in touch solely through phone calls. I thought she had spent the last moments in the hospital. Unexpectedly, Jonathan took Wendy to Bali, a place I had always wanted to visit. In the photos, Jonathan held Wendy's waist and smiled so happily. I mentioned it to him more than once. Jonathan always said that traveling was meaningless. At dinner, Wendy said she wanted to go on a trip to Bali. Jonathan peeled a shrimp for Wendy and said dotingly, I'll go anywhere you want. That was the second time I saw Wendy. That meal felt as disgusting as swallowing a fly. On the way back, I asked out of spite. Jonathan, I want to go to Bali, will you come with me? Jonathan frowned slightly. I'm busy, you're not a child, if you want to go, just go by yourself. Then he transferred $200,000 to me. That time I couldn't hold back and asked again. But Wendy also said she wanted to go to Bali today. Why did you say you'd go with her? She was just talking, can she really go? Don't be so unreasonable, okay? I didn't realize that this picture taken in Bali was just the beginning. The routes they took in Bali felt increasingly familiar. This was clearly the itinerary I had planned but lost. Back then, I didn't expect Jonathan to reject me so thoroughly, had spent a month planning it with great anticipation. If they followed this plan, they would end up under the sunset. The next moment, I saw a video of the two kissing passionately under the sunset, their gazes intertwined affectionately, as if nothing could tear them apart. I had been abandoned countless times without crying. I didn't cry when I was left behind at the wedding either. Even when I had to accept Wendy's child, I didn't cry. I had been assuring myself that Wendy wasn't his true love, at least they didn't have emotional entanglements, treated her well because her days were numbered. These photos seemed like they had been in love for 5 years. They looked like a family of 3. In these 5 years, Jonathan and I didn't have a single photo together. The things they did together were things that even as his real girlfriend and now wife, I never experienced. It felt like being stabbed, rendering me unable to breathe. The trust we once had collapsed instantly like a joke. Tears blurred my vision. My mind went blank for a moment. The cup in my hand fell to the ground instantly, hot water in it spilling out, scalding my foot with blisters immediately forming from the burn. Before I could scream from the sharp pain, Letitia screamed first beside me, then she shouted, "Daddy, it hurts." Before I could react, Jonathan hurriedly picked up Letitia with a worried face and ran out without even looking at me. Sweating from pain, I followed behind him. But before I could open the car door, he started the car and drove away without hesitation. Stood there dumbfounded. The excruciating pain snapped me back to reality. I hailed a cab and followed them. By the time I arrived at the hospital, Jonathan saw me and slapped me hard, causing my head and ears to buzz. "You actually poured hot water on Letitia, Jocelyn. How could you be so vicious? She's just a little girl. What if she gets scarred for life? How will you compensate, with your aging, unattractive skin?" I was trembling with anger, and I didn't expect Jonathan to lay hands on me directly. Slap, slap. Without hesitation, I slapped him back twice. Jonathan's eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging in his neck as he grabbed my shoulders, nearly dislocating them. "She's just a child, and you hurt her out of jealousy. You disappoint me so much. I never thought you could be this cruel." Letitia was terrified. "Do you understand? You will apologize to her. If you can't make it right, don't even think about leaving." My foot throbbed with immense pain as I struggled, cold sweat pouring down. Letitia was in the nurse's arms, her arm only slightly red with no blisters at all. Seeing me, she shrank back in fear. "I'm sorry, Auntie, I'll be good from now on. I won't touch your phone again." Hearing this, Jonathan's breathing grew heavier. "Just because she touched your phone, you poured hot water on her? What are you hiding on your phone that no one can see?" His face turned extremely ugly as if he had thought of something. "Jocelyn, I've been spending more time taking care of Wendy, and last time Wendy said she saw you go to a hotel with a man. Are you cheating on me?" My face went pale. Rage surged from the soles of my feet. "Jocelyn, how dare you betray me?" He snatched my phone from me. It happened to be on the screen showing him kissing Wendy. His angry expression instantly turned into panic. "It's not what it looks like. This was Yonner's dying wish. This kiss meant nothing. You have to believe me." I laughed coldly, more clear-headed than ever. "You've already kissed. What's the point of saying anything now?" "Jonathan, you disgust me." One sentence made Jonathan's breath catch, his eyes full of disbelief. "How can you say that about me?" The nurse called my name from outside. "Jocelyn, it's your turn." Only then did Jonathan notice that I was limping out. When I took off my socks, my skin was covered in blisters and sores that looked horrifying. Jonathan urgently asked the doctor, "How is she? Will it hurt? Will there be scars?" Because it was too noisy and Letitia was crying nearby. The whole hospital was in chaos when Jonathan was kicked out. Anxiously said, "Jocelyn, I'll wait outside until you're done with the treatment. I can explain everything. I didn't know you'd get hurt. But Letitia is also hurt. You shouldn't lose control over such a small matter. How will you ace children in the future? I hope this incident teaches you a lesson. As a mother, you must be strong like a superwoman. I'm saying this for your own good." Jonathan kept making excuses. I wanted to sew his mouth shut. I have no children, get out. He was startled by my roar. Jonathan's face turned ugly. You shouldn't say things that hurt Letitia and me. Jocelyn, you're too emotionally unstable to be Letitia's mother. Get out. Before he could finish speaking, I threw a slipper at him. My body screamed that I never wanted this in the first place. It wasn't some great honor, but if I said that aloud, Jonathan would find ways to torment my mom. My mom would guilt-trip me with how hard it was to raise me alone. Because I wasn't happy with Wendy always being around Jonathan and wanted to break up with him. Jonathan told my mom. She caused a scene at my school, sold everything she had to pay for my education only for me to abandon her soon after graduation. Someone recorded it and posted it online. I was trending for 2 weeks straight and got expelled right before graduation. Later they apologized but said they didn't expect it would stop me from graduating. They blamed me for not getting along with Jonathan. They even said being Mrs. Bart didn't require a degree. Getting married early was better since studying had ruined my brain. That day I broke down completely and screamed that they had ruined my life. I'll never forget their cold eyes, as if they thought I was crazy. Marrying Jonathan was supposed to be a blessing. How could it ruin my life? Thank goodness I didn't graduate. If I had a good job after graduation, how would I keep Jonathan? That's what my mom told her friends. I thought I'd paid off that debt, then who knew she'd use the same guilt trip to push me into another abyss. After treating my wounds, there was no one outside anymore. The expected not that I wanted to see him anyway. After more than a month, the wound began to scab and itch intensely, indicating it was healing. The doorbell rang. Instead of Jonathan returning, someone from the Bart family arrived. Jonas said, "Miss Chaplin, Madam wants you to return to the old house." The old house was where Bernice Bart lived. The people there never acknowledged my identity. They treated me coldly, not saying an extra word. At the Bart family's old house, Bernice Bart remained as elegant and noble as ever. She barely lifted her eyelids when she saw me. "You can't even take care of a child. What can you do?" Yenner asked me to educate you properly so that you can become a qualified mother. It seemed they noticed my injury was almost healed and called me back to learn how to take care of the child. I should commend Jonathan for being a natural businessman, truly calculating. What was laughable was that I had actually wondered how Jonathan would explain his affair with Wendy to me. "Are you regretting it?" Bernice Bart seemed to see my anger. "Your mother and brother have already moved into that apartment in the city center. If you feel wronged, you can buy it for $10 million. I took a deep breath. She knew I couldn't afford it. Daphne Chaplin could never take care of a child. She either went shopping or play at mahjong. It seemed calling her back was just to keep her from disturbing her fun. Letitia no longer behaved as obediently as she did the first time we met. She would knock over the food I made or damage my belongings, especially those Jonathan had bought for me. She specifically targeted those items to destroy. She even placed her hairpin in my room and accused me of stealing it. When I was wiping the floor with a small cloth, she stepped directly on my hand. Something on her shoe caused sharp pain in my hand instantly. Raised my hand reflexively. Letitia fell backward, hitting her head and crying loudly. Jonathan appeared at that exact moment, neither sooner nor later. "Jocelyn, what did you do to Letitia?" He stared at me coldly. "I thought you had calmed down and realized your mistake, but I didn't expect you to still lay hands on a child. Have you not developed any compassion after all this time? She's just a child. Why do you always have conflicts with her?" I instinctively replied, "She stepped on me. Ask the others if you don't believe me." The group acted as if they didn't see anything and continued with their tasks. One maid even said coolly, "Jonathan, I think this woman doesn't want to take good care of Letitia. She did it on purpose." Jonathan looked at me with a disappointed expression. "Jocelyn, you've really let me down. This was an opportunity for you to bond with Mom and the child you've been allowed into the old house. Can't you tolerate a bit, with elders above and children below? What's wrong with taking a step back for peace? Why don't you understand my difficulties? How much effort have I put in to make you all get along? Letitia isn't such a difficult child, smarter than kids her age and gets along well with everyone except you. Why don't you look for the reason within yourself? Jonathan criticized me sentence after sentence. In the past, hearing such words might have made me consider whether I wasn't doing well enough and why no one liked me. Later, I realized these people just liked to flatter those in power while stepping on those who were down. Now, patience and torment had worn my love for Jonathan beyond recognition. Why don't you look for the reason within yourself? You treat Letitia's biological mother like your own. How could she accept me? Jonathan's expression changed drastically, his face turning extremely ugly. Jocelyn, it's fine if you slander me, but why slander someone as good as Wendy? Why use your disgusting thoughts to ruin our friendship? Seemed his dear Wendy couldn't be spoken against by me. So I insisted, oh, friendship that involves kissing, friendship where you're together like a couple every day. Previously, Jonathan felt guilty. Now there wasn't a trace of guilt left as he interrupted directly, it's just a kiss. I've told you it meant nothing. We need to make such an ugly scene over it? How long has it been? Are you still hung up on it? Haven't you kissed anyone other than me? I don't believe that. I merely mentioned a fact, yet he slandered me like this. He clearly knew he was my first love. My heart, already full of holes, was gripped tightly by large hands once again, causing immense pain. I picked up the curry rice on the table and threw it at him directly. Those servants who usually looked down on me panicked instantly. Indeed, men's guilt only lasts in the moment. As he turned away, Jonathan's cold voice came through. Jocelyn, learn how to be a mother before leaving the Bart family. He clearly knew how difficult it was for me in the Bart family, unable to eat or sleep, while yet he treated me like this again for Wendy's daughter. Standing there in despair felt like being submerged in icy water. Jonathan grabbed my hand. Jocelyn, listen to me, you've endured these 5 years. This small matter is nothing for you. So he knew I'd endured 5 whole years. In his words, he brushed off 5 years of pain lightly. He wasn't unaware, he just didn't care about me. Suddenly I laughed. Yet he cared so much about Wendy's daughter in his heart. Was Wendy just a lifesaver? I stayed, but others couldn't sit still any longer. You're still not leaving. My mom was right, you really are shameless. Letitia, young but with a venomous look in her eyes, snapped at me. What do you mean by that? I had a feeling this 5-year-old knew everything. Am I wrong? On all the important days over these past 5 years, my mom would call Dad away. He spent less than 1/10 of his time with you, yet you endure and don't break up with Jonathan. You really are after his wealth, clinging like a plaster, impossible to shake off. My mom hadn't fallen ill. How could you, a vile woman, have ended up marrying my father? I had considered this possibility before. But what's the point in fighting when you're dying? Even if you win, it's all for nothing. But sadly, my mom died, and Jonathan and I got married, so your plans fell through. I retorted to the malicious child. There was no need for niceties. Letitia suddenly giggled. What my mom couldn't have, no other woman shall have my dad's love either. You will leave. Her certainty seemed as if she knew something. Aren't you afraid that your dad Jonathan will disown you after seeing this side of you? I saw Jonathan approaching and deliberately asked. Letitia lifted her chin triumphantly. Even if he disowns you, he won't disown me. Because I am. Letitia. Jonathan rushed over, trying to stop her. But the child spoke swiftly and sharply. I am the child of Dad and Mom. My mind buzzed. What? Letitia is Wendy and Jonathan's child. Seeing the panic and even fear in Jonathan's eyes, I knew Letitia wasn't lying. I admit, at that moment Wendy indeed succeeded. Shadows finally engulfed my entire life. My years of endurance and perseverance turned into a joke. I could only watch as everyone's lips moved. By the time I regained my senses, my mom, my brother, Bernice, Bart, and Jonathan were all standing before me. My mom spoke first. Jocelyn, Jonathan told me everything, and Wendy just got drunk and had a reckless night. Men, as long as they come home, that's fine, right? Every woman turns a blind eye. Just made a small mistake that men make. Don't make a scene here. Bernice Bart was still confident. With our Bart family's conditions, there are plenty of women willing to be a stepmother to Letitia. You're not being wronged. Why can't you be more generous? Typical of low-class families, not knowing how to save face. Jonathan finally let down his facade. Jocelyn, I was wrong, really wrong. I was afraid of losing you, so I kept it from you. But all these unpleasant things are in the past now. Wendy is dead, there's no need to be jealous of a dead person, she won't be an obstacle between us anymore, let's live well from now on. I looked at these so-called closest people to me and how they forced me time and again. Are these really my family? Is it worth my endurance? I stood up from the bed and went first to Daphne Chaplin. The apartment you live in downtown is worth 10 million. If you can afford it, pay up, if not, move out. Concerned about her own interests, Daphne Chaplin suddenly became energetic. What do you mean, you want a divorce from Jonathan? You can't do such shameless things. Sacrificing for family is supposed to be. If you do that, my brother and I will only be able to live in the streets. Are you okay with seeing us suffer? Then rot there, I said sternly, unflinching. Shocked by my demeanor, Daphne Chaplin only paused for a moment before starting to act dramatically. Oh, I can't live anymore. See how a daughter is driving her mother to death, I can't live anymore. Then go die. I coldly stared at Daphne Chaplin. My dad only told you to stop gambling, and you threatened to jump off a building but never fell, making my dad your scapegoat. After all these years, why aren't you dead yet? You should have died long ago. Even Daphne Chaplin, and everyone else present, was shocked. The next second, I faced Bernice Bart. When your husband's mistress's child showed up in front of you, why didn't you say to be that child's stepmother with your generous heart? That child has been wandering outside for over 10 years, for the sake of your Bart family's face, why don't you take her back? That child's situation was the biggest stain of her life, and mentioning it now made her clutch her chest, her face purple with rage. You. Jonathan rushed over furious at me. How can you talk to mom like that? Have you no manners? Slap. Slap, 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 slap. I slapped him more than 20 times. Slapping stunned everyone, including the onlooking servants. You are the cheapest among all here. The child is 5 years old, that means 7 years ago when we met and you pursued me, you were already sleeping with Wendy, chasing me while sleeping with your lifesaver. Don't tell me a one-night stand could get someone pregnant, not even a dog would believe that. Were you not marrying her because she was destined to die, not being your permanent bed partner? Why bother with me? Thinking of how, because of him, I didn't even graduate from college and endured all this time. I threw everything I could find in the room at them, not sparing them, nor the servants passing by. They were beaten so badly they dared not enter the door again. Jonathan, realizing too late, said, "We might have been too harsh on her. Jocelyn, get angry, hit us all you want, after you've vented, let's live well." He couldn't finish his sentence as several people, pale-faced, watched me pull out a knife. We're getting a divorce, and if anyone shows up in front of me again, I won't mind slitting their throat. Jonathan never expected me to file for divorce. Jocelyn, don't be stubborn, don't make a scene. I turned and the blood spurted out instantly, screams filled the room. Jonathan, desperate, stared at me, trying to find a trace of compassion in my eyes. I stood there coldly smiling. The next person who appears before me, I'll slit their throat. I had saved a few million over the years, enough for me to live on. Taking the money, I left. The next day, I went to the lawyer and drafted a divorce settlement, sending it directly to Jonathan. Day 3. My brother showed up. Jocelyn Chaplin, if I lose that $10 million house, it's not over between us. Look at other sisters, giving themselves up to help their brothers get a house and a wife, it's only natural. Why is it when it's you make such a fuss? I order you to go back and apologize to your brother-in-law right now. If Daphne Chaplin got $10 from our father's insurance, 9 were spent by these two, and $1 was for the whole family to eat together. Since Jonathan and I have been together, I never raised my head in front of him, only now daring to speak of divorce. I grabbed Stephen by the hair and kicked his leg several times, breaking it, then dialed a phone. Daphne Chaplin, if Stephen shows up in front of me again, I don't mind if he's crippled for life. Daphne Chaplin, usually so fierce, turned pale with fear, and when she arrived, she slapped Stephen. You're so big, how can you be so useless? I can't beat her, can't you? How can we suppress her like this? So these two plan to use force to make me submit. Even though I already knew these two had no conscience, it still made me furious, especially now that Jonathan was calling, obviously having regained his composure. "Jocelyn, just come today, from now on we're family again. I'll treat your family like my own, not a penny less for them. If you don't obey the 7 million they threatened me for initially, they'll have to explain." He couldn't finish because I had already picked up another phone to call the police. "Hello, I'd like to report my family for threatening and extorting 7 million from my ex-husband." Stephen and Daphne Chaplin went straight to jail because I brought out the evidence. Every time he went to Wendy's, if I got angry, Jonathan would show proof of his innocence and screenshots of my family threatening him for money. I couldn't say a word. Once an inescapable shackle, now how satisfying. Trash belongs in jail. Jonathan never expected that I would really send my family to prison. This time he really panicked, blocking my way while shopping, his eyes red and disheveled. In my eyes, he looked far worse than when Wendy died. "Jocelyn, won't you forgive me? This child is a demon." In the next moment, he froze because I was arm in arm with a handsome man, striding away. In my eyes, full of happiness. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.